Hello, sports fans. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you for stopping by our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe and notifications toggle so you never miss a thing. All of our content up here every day. Looking forward to it. Thank you, and we'll see you on the radio.
To Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, time!
3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday, joined now by the shot father, Todd Leary. And it finally happened a little sooner than some of us expected, but West Virginia not being getting screwed out of the NCAA tournament kind of sped that process up for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, I mean, it turned out to be what we all thought we were in the, fighting the same fight, being mad about not making the tournament. Turns out we probably just produced some more enemies because they seem – I'll tell you what's fun. They seem to be upset that they lost him, and that's a good sign because if they were happy they got rid of him, that would be – that'd be something we'd have to address. But no, it's a good situation. I think timing is – I don't think the timing could be any better. I think it's perfect.
Well, it is for a number of reasons, and great point, because it's like going to a restaurant that's empty. It's not a good sign.
right. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the timing, because although the portal does not officially open until Monday, for Indiana players, it is already open because of the coaching situation change that allows them to enter the portal. They don't even have to officially be in it. We've seen that Gabe Cupps intends, Malik Renew intends. So far, I think that's all I've seen thus far, which is actually another great sign because normally it's a mass exodus. And it's not to say that there's not going to be more. There probably will be. But the fact that guys like Bryson Tucker, who was reportedly in the portal, but when it wasn't true, and he's like, no, I haven't done anything yet. Wise move. These guys are showing that they're sticking around to see what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, but I mean, and honestly, like I expect, and I don't have inside information. I think all of us as Indiana fans should expect almost everyone to enter the transfer portal. Look, it's like free agency in a pro sport, whether it's the NBA or NFL, major leagues, whatever it is. It's like the ability to have free agency every single year. And you just test the market and see where you're at. And there are going to be some guys who obviously wouldn't fit that mold and are comfortable where they're at, not going to make more money than the place they're already at. But at Indiana, given the coaching change especially, I think we would be, a little nuts to not expect all of these guys to enter the portal and at least see, if they have some value somewhere else, if there might be, something that looks more appealing to them. And so I don't read too much into I would expect, and I'll tell you this, I played with a bunch of guys that were diehard, loyal Indiana people. And I'm not even going to throw names out because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus or speak for other people. I'll just tell you, I know the guys that I play with well enough to know if we were in the situation that these guys are in today, a lot of guys would have put their name in the portal just to see what their value was and where they're at. And you talk about life-changing money. And so, I think they would almost be a little bit naive if they didn't put their name in the portal.
I think they'd be a lot naive. I agree with you 1,000%. It's just something you have to do. It's
sure.
You hate to say it,
but it's the new beast. They didn't create it.
It's a business decision.
It is. They're just a part of it. They didn't create this situation the way it is. This, model the way that Steve Alford addressed it the other day. The model is a little nuts right now. But for these players that are there, you've got to take advantage of the model the way that it is. They didn't create it, but they have to address it the way that it sits right now.
Well, a lot of the buzz of late had been about Ben McCollum, the current Drake coach, ironically.
Sure, he's the hot guy right now, yeah.
Well, he replaced Darian DeVries, who was formerly a Drake and had a great run there before leaving for West Virginia for a single season. But I think that he did not leave the cupboard bare with going to the NCAA tournament 3 or 4 years, I think, at Drake. But there's something Scott Dolson saw in him as well, in addition to being able to get him now instead of waiting another week. That had to have played into it, because also he was not only high, he was probably number 1 on Iowa's list.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm pretty sure I said it on your show almost a year ago, but we didn't have the coaches opening the way that it is now. But I think a lot of people, were kind of 50-50 on whether they thought Mike Woodson would return last year or not. And I sat on my couch watching the conference tournaments last year, and I'm pretty sure I said it on your show, but I know I have witnesses of saying it, in that, man, we should go after that guy right now. Now, we didn't have an opening. And I know it was hard for us to talk about it at that point because the job wasn't open. And most, you're almost insulting the current staff by talking about guys you should go hire. But I know I sat on my couch a year ago, watched them play, and said, that's it. That's the hot guy this year. That Darian DeVries is he's going to go make somebody pretty happy, because, I think with Butler and some Northwestern, some smaller schools where they're not going to be able to pay. They don't have the TV money. They can't pay the big dollars to a coach that, that these bigger schools can. And that's probably why they're going to lose McCollum this year. Although, if you listen to him talk, money is not the issue. And I don't think it's the issue with Coach DeVries either. But in this instance, I think the situation makes sense. What he did at West Virginia this year, I wanted to follow them and watch them a lot, but with the injury to his son, Tucker, I'll admit I didn't watch them very often. I wanted to watch him play. I wanted to watch him move up a level from Drake to West Virginia and play in that conference and see how he did. And with his injuries, he didn't play the last half of the year. And so, I'm assuming he's bringing him along with him.
I would imagine that's a package deal, baby.
We would assume so, but he's a great player, and
here's some irony. I mentioned this before you joined us, but you have a great relationship with the Sisley family. When his older brother Blake, when he was playing at Evansville in the MVC, played against Drake and DeVries and his son Tucker, and now
interesting.
The coach is going to be Trent's coach, and Tucker is going to be Trent's teammate. So, a little world comes full circle moment.
It really does. And I'll tell you, from a systems perspective, just on the outside of it, boy, does Trent Sisley fit the system of, he basically is Tucker DeVries, just in a different body. They play a pretty similar style. And yeah, I'm saying that also, and I'm going to admit, I'm not an expert on Tucker DeVries. I watched him play a lot, and I enjoyed watching him play on his team last year or 2 years ago at Drake. But I know he was a good player, and I know that system that they have. I feel like that system fits Trent Sisley. About as well as you could get a system to fit a kid coming in. And I think he will benefit from it a ton. And I think all things point towards the fit for this coach at this time, at this university, with the players that they have coming in. I'm assuming hopefully he brings some of the recruits he had. I know he had a high 4-star guard that he was supposedly bringing in, ranked right there with Trent Sisley. So, boy, it would just be nice to have, some building blocks and pieces that you've already got. I will say Coach DeVries' system a lot more than he fit Coach Woodson's system. So, he might be a guy that
we missed who you said. Who was that?
Bryson Tucker,
Oh.
already at Indiana. His mid-range kind of game fits that system, I think, a little bit better than what it did in Coach Woodson's system. So
why is that?
He's a better mid-range shooter. I think the offense that Drake ran and the offense at West Virginia this year controls the pace a little bit more than just flying up and down the court. And I'll admit, I like the high, fast pace. The BYU, let's get it down and shoot as many threes as we can. Illinois, and that's not the system that Coach DeVries has had in the past. And so I don't expect that to be the one that's here. But I am just as excited, for being able to see, what he can do coming in here, rebuilding the culture and getting it back to where, we're complaining on, Sunday night, a selection Sunday, we're complaining about our seed and not whether we did or did not get in. And I think it will not be very long before we're back in that position.
Pecan Pies on the comment line says 2 of his 3 high school commits have now already decommitted. So there's part of your answer. I don't know that gives you all of the answer, of course, but I would not be surprised to see that. I mean, it's an opportunity to go to Indiana. It's a step up for everybody, all involved, the players including. The presser happens at 11:30. For those of you that Laurie just asked that question. And if you watched all of the Battle for Atlantis last year, you might have seen Tucker DeVries playing because he played a crucial role in the fact West Virginia beat Gonzaga, the team that beat the crap out of Indiana. And they ended up playing Louisville for the championship, I believe. Another team that beat the snot out of Indiana. So that's the basis. They started had a great start. That was a last place team he inherited last year. So he has experience rebuilding a program in a P4 conference.
Yeah. And you know what? He has experience with the portal. He dealt with that last year. I know I read part of the comment from Scott Dolson and they had certain criteria they wanted to meet. And I hope one of those was a little bit of at least experience, if not expertise in dealing with the portal. Because it's, I don't know if it's here to stay, but it's here for a bit. And, you're right. There's going to be some rebuilding, but let's not, I'm not acting like that's an Indiana problem. That's a NCAA all college basketball problem. We're going to see teams that had a very successful year this year that made the NCAA tournament that have players that hit the portal. It's going to happen at almost every school. And so, I do think that's one of the criteria that needs to be, you need to be a little bit experienced in. And thankfully he is. I mean, I think we are, as Indiana University, better off getting Coach DeVries the year after he had the experience of moving from Drake to West Virginia, because it's not quite the step from West Virginia to Indiana that it was from Drake to West Virginia, but it's a step. It's a big step. And you're now at a blue blood basketball school. And if anyone wants to argue that Indiana's a blue blood, that's fine. I'm not going to have that argument. I don't care whether you think they are or aren't.
Exactly.
They have all the resources possible. They have everything that you could possibly need to win. And that pretty much makes them a blue blood. So that's if that's not the definition of blue blood, then you come up with your own definition of it. But he's got the resources that he's going to need to build a roster. And he built a roster last year that was successful in their league. I think he's only going to have more opportunities to be successful here. And that's an exciting thing. I think that had to be probably a big reason why, I saw Coach McDermott from Creighton's comment, it comes from that coaching tree. And I heard his comment of saying, welcome to the pressure cooker now, because you're at a place that it's basketball 24/7. And I love Coach Signetti and I love the football program and I love all that. I hope he proves me dead wrong in this down the road. But Indiana's a basketball school. And I hope we win the football national championship every year. But if we won it 10 years in a row, I still think we're going to be a basketball school. And that's the pressure cooker that you're in now at Indiana. And I, as a competitive basketball dude, I tweeted out last night, we got a basketball dude. We got a guy that's here to work He's here to – it's basketball. He eats, sleeps, and breathes basketball. And that's what, a lot of us as young kids did growing up in the state of Indiana. And I think we've got to eat, sleep, and drinker of basketball right now.
Yeah, and you mentioned that experience of moving to West Virginia and getting a big, healthy dose of having to build a program now on the fly with the portal, with everything else that you have to do. That was not a knock, but a question about Ben McCollum. And so that could have been one of the things that separated these two guys. And Scott,
and for sure. And you look at it, like, of course, Ben McCollum's name, like, he is the hot button right now. Like, he is their team is, when you get Clark Kellogg and Seth Davis and all of those guys, sitting up there on Selection Sunday, when they're mentioning your team and how impressive your team is to watch, and that they think your team probably has a great chance of winning their, not just their first round, but maybe making it to the Sweet 16. Like, of course, he's going to be the hot name that's out there right now. A year ago, that name was Coach DeVries. And so, he's got that one extra year of experience. And yes, he's got that one extra year of doing the thing he's going to have to do again. And that's move to a new town and reestablish himself and meet all the people you've got to meet and that have the money and pay for your NIL and do all those things. And he's got facilities. I don't know what West Virginia's facilities are, but I'm assuming he's going to be somewhat impressed with Indiana's facilities. And if not, hey, just tell the boosters what we need, and I'm sure we'll probably get it.
Mark says he promises to give any new coach 3 years. And you know what? I think that's fine. 3 years. 4, you don't need 4. But anyway, it says Tucker can flat out play. Watched him at Drake keep the Sycamores from the tournament. So, yeah, it's great to have that piece coming in. Luke Goody will probably be coming back. I think that he gets his medical red shirt. And I say that because it's always great to have an experienced guy like that on your bench, no matter where he is, that in your fold. And you have Trent Sisley coming in. And then if they ends up keeping any of the guys off of Indiana, which that would not be more than Bryson Tucker, I would imagine. I can't think of anybody else that's left that either hasn't intended to hit the portal, because you had 5 or 6 guys that left. And then the rest to be filled in, but that won't be as difficult at Indiana when he opens that bag up and says, oh hell, I could go get some players, baby.
For sure. And you know what? Like, I mean, let's just call it the way that it is. I mean, I've talked about it, so I'll be on here saying, if it were me this morning at 8 a.m., I'd have been sitting at Braylon Mullins' house seeing if he needed a ride to school. I mean, you just, you know what? That's what happened last year.
That's great thinking.
That's what happened last year with Liam McNeely.
Liam McNeely.
He was at Indiana. It's not dirty pool. It's not, doing underhanded stuff. Like, that's the business. That's the way that it is. It is a business. And Braylon Mullins made a decision, and he might be perfectly happy with where he's at. I don't know. He may just absolutely have fallen in love with UConn, and that's where he's going no matter what. Die on the, he's going to UConn for sure. But you know what? I'd find out. And I'd be put myself in a position to where, if I'd be turning over every stone. And so the one thing that we know is the one thing that I have heard from everyone that has ever worked with, talked to, or knows anything about Coach DeVries is that he's a hard worker. And man, I tell you, that washes away a lot of maybe things that you think he might not be as good at or whatever it might be. Like, if he's a hard worker, that's all we really need to know. The very first thing that you will hear out of Scott Dolson's mouth, if you ask him about Coach Signetti, is he's the hardest worker I've ever seen. He is not going to get outworked. And I feel like right now, Scott Dolson has put 2 guys in 2 very important positions at this university in the athletic department that are hard workers. And I think that's going to be a new thing that hasn't been the case over the past few years at Indiana. And I'm excited about the fact that we got a guy that I think is excited about being here. And you know, I used to say it all the time about players. All players fall into two categories. There's a lot of other categories, but they fall into two categories. And one is they're either very happy and excited to be at the university, feel lucky that they are going to that university, or the university is lucky to have them. And I feel like we're in a position where we have a guy at coach now that feels like he is happy and very thankful to be at this university and not vice versa.
Yeah, kind of a match between Stignetti on football and basketball, guys that are working, that are in the locker rooms, that are in there past when the games are well passed over. Todd Leary, the shot father, with us, talking about Darian DeVries and Indiana's brand new coach, the 31st coach in Indiana history. That's another. Can you imagine that? That fraternity, as old as, 125, 30 years of Indiana basketball, there's only been 31 guys. You could put them in a little classroom together and they could have a conversation about all the travails. I'm sure Bob Knight would be leading that one. All right, this is how this one's going to go. We got to take a break. We've got the great Todd Leary with us from myjumpshot.com. Don't forget, if you have a son, daughter, nephew, niece, it doesn't matter. It's friends, kid, neighbors, anybody, great gift. Go to myjumpshot.com. Help them out with their basketball fundamentals. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. And the hard truth is Indiana has a brand new basketball coach and new hope amongst a lot of Indiana fans. I'm sure it's not all of them, because I talked a lot about Todd. It didn't matter who it ended up being at this point. There was going to be a faction that, I'm like, I don't know what else people really could have expected at this point. Dusty May was not coming. They missed the boat on him. He didn't sign the extension because for no other reason that I think he felt loyal to Michigan, who gave him the opportunity last year. And this is not a knock on Indiana, although maybe it is. Indiana had their chance.
Sure.
Michigan took their shot. He felt loyal to them. He's a loyal guy. So you can't blame him. He wasn't coming to Indiana. Brad Stevens was never coming to Indiana. The only other one that would stand out is the Chris Beard situation. I knew that was never going to happen. And it wasn't. And people are just going to have to get past that. There's more to it than just simplicity. So, I mean, it's not for me to tell anybody how to feel. But I'm like, man, I just think people take a chill. I think that the basketball program is already better off.
Hey, you know, Coach Knight said some crazy things over the years, but one of the things that he said is opinions are like, but everybody has one. Yeah. And you're not going to make everyone happy. And I will say this, let's just let the situation work itself out. Some people, and this is what you love about Indiana basketball, people had some very, very strong opinions of who they wanted and why they wanted them. And that's great. That's awesome. I did too. And, you know, I've been saying on your show, I thought Chris Beard would be a great fit for years. And I don't share that same opinion with you, that I don't think it was ever going to happen. And you might be right. I might be right. I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter at this point. Look, I don't think that there is any there's any question that Coach DeVries is a basketball guy, and that's what we want running our basketball program. And so, you know, I'm sure, look, I am on text chains with different former player groups, and some people liked it, some people didn't like it or whatever, but we're all kind of basketball dudes, and we all kind of say the same thing. Look, basketball wise, I mean, I think we're going to win. It might not be the style that everyone loves. It may be the style everyone loves. I don't know. I know he comes in and his, I would say, if you ask the average person about his style of basketball, it's more defense oriented. It's a little slower paced, and they control the game. And I think if you asked people about Coach Knight, I think they would give you a very, very similar description of his style of play.
Hello, sports fans. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you for stopping by our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe and notifications toggle so you never miss a thing. All of our content up here every day. Looking forward to it. Thank you, and we'll see you on the radio.